Thanks. All right. So we're going to be doing a Nearpod. And I use Nearpod because it helps us to kind of gather our thoughts and be central in our communication with everyone, but it also gives me one place to see how everybody's doing, where people might have questions. So you're going to join the Nearpod. And I will share the screen one more time in case.
Lay, do you realize we hear your balance video?
That's not mine. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know whose that is, but that's not mine. Let me double check. Yeah, mine is gone. Let me check everybody. Okay. So the Nearpod link is in the chat. You can also go to join.nearpod.com. If you could type the first and last name that you registered with when it says name, and then put whatever name you prefer to be called by under the nickname spot. That's what will show up. But that way, when I pull a report, I can match the report information with the actual registration information for CTA. Now, the way Nearpod works is that I will be controlling your screen for the most part. I'm going to stream the videos on my screen, so you will not be playing them on yours. That way we don't get any interruptions and we're all on the same page. So I'm going to stop sharing this and go to the Nearpod. That's very strange. I don't have it even on my screen, so I'm not sure why does anybody else other than Sheila hear the balance challenge?
Yeah, it's still going very loud.
It must be on her screen because when she just unmuted, I could hear it.
Nobody else seems to hear it. Do you have it in the background on your screen, Sheila? That's okay, Devin, because the great thing about Nearpod is that I'll be sharing it on the screen as well. So if yours is not loading because of Wi-Fi, you'll still be able to interact with us and see. It'll just take a second to load when you're given the opportunity to answer the questions on the Nearpod.
When I registered, it didn't even ask for the code. Is that correct?
That's correct. So if you registered by the link, it will not ask you for the code.
Okay.
I have it set up to go straight there. It's just easier. But if somebody gets bumped out or something, then that way you can get back in. And the code will always be at the top. So if you accidentally get bumped out of the Nearpod or accidentally close it out, the code is always at the top of the screen.
So it's kind of like Pear Deck with the code, right?
Yeah, it's like Pear Deck in the sense of controlling the screen, but it's way better.
Okay.
That I have to do a whole nother session on the merits of Nearpod. All right, so let's get this started here. So welcome to the Plug and Play Assessment, Functional Fitness Challenges, and Flipgrid for the JMU Content Teaching Academy on June 22nd, which is today. Thanks so much for hanging around and joining us today. So our objectives for today's session, by the end of this session, I hope that you will be able to describe the challenges that are inherent in assessing students receiving adaptive physical education, identify resources and tools that are available for free to you as educators, and create examples and templates for assessment in a variety of class situations. So we got a packed session. We're going to roll through this and get some good stuff. Our expectations my expectations during this session, I ask that you remain muted. So please keep your microphone muted unless you're called upon. I also ask that if you have any questions, you put a question mark in the chat. That helps me keep track of who asked what questions in what order, so I get to everybody. If you want to type the whole question in the chat, you certainly can, but just a question mark will work as well, and then I'll call on you. I ask that you participate fully and engage in all the interactive parts of the class and be ready to offer your ideas, because I will do some cold calling. And I ask that you respect the ideas and the experience of others, and consider that others' expertise and experiences may be tools that you can use to improve your teaching. Even if you've been teaching adaptive physical education for 20 years, someone else's experiences or expertise may be of a benefit to you. So those are there. Check. I'm sure we won't have any problem with any of that. So who am I? I'm Lay. I am a nationally certified health education specialist and elementary health and physical education teacher in Virginia Beach. I teach at Thalia Elementary. I am also part of the Chief Movement Officer cadre. I act as a mentor to guide cadre members and the program. And I am recently found out, I just added this. This is super exciting. I have to add this on Monday. That I will be adjunct faculty at Old Dominion University this fall. I will be teaching in the Human Movement Sciences department. The class I'll be teaching will be Assessment, Evaluation, and Technology and Sport and PE. It's an elective for the Graduate Certificate in Adaptive Physical Education. So if you take that, you'll see me again, and some of this stuff too. So who are you? So let's put some faces to some names. I want you to switch back to your full Zoom screen and then switch to gallery view. And with your camera on, I want you to see wave if you see anybody that you know, like not just from yesterday, but any familiar faces. Because sometimes that it's important. This is the only time I'm going to make you have your camera on, I promise. It's important for us to realize that there are a lot of people who are getting this information and that we're not alone in wanting to know about adaptive physical education, whether we are APE teachers or physical education teachers or some other educator in the school. We all have a stake in our adaptive physical education students' education, as with all of our students' education. And it's nice to see that there are other people from our division or even our school who are here learning the same. So I'm waving because I see lots of people I know. Wave if you see anybody you know. Hey, good to see you. Some names. Fantastic. I think I see almost everybody waving. Rob's waving at everybody. Sheila's waving at everybody because she knows everybody. Fantastic. Okay, I promise that's the only time I'll make you have your camera on. But I hope that you keep it on to stay with us. So we're going to take our first commercial break. I am going to, oh, sorry, Courtney. Man, Courtney, you need to talk to your tech person. I am going to play this one on my screen. So it will stream easily. We're going to watch our first commercial break, and we'll be doing this throughout the sessions today.
Welcome to the Functional Fitness Challenge for muscular strength and for muscular endurance. This is the Plank Challenge.
Begin on hands and knees. Move from hands onto elbows so your elbows are straight under your shoulders. Touch your elbows with the fingertips of the opposite hand. Then unfold your arms and hold your hands together against the floor. Lift knees and straighten legs so that the only part of your lower body touching the floor is your toes. Curl your toes under your feet and keep your feet together. Look at your hands and try to keep your body in a straight line. Hold this position for no longer than 3 minutes. If your hips sag or you lose the straight line, stop the exercise and record the amount of time that you get. Record your challenge score in seconds.
Okay, so for our first commercial break, we are going to be doing that challenge. So clear yourself some space. We've heard the cues. I think it's important that as we're talking about these, we've experienced them. So obviously there are a lot of people who are familiar with the functional fitness challenges, and we'll get more into those, but throughout the session today, we will be participating in them. Modify as you find necessary, and that will be important for later as well. So I'm going to play the challenge demonstration video that will come up. The seconds will count. As soon as your knees come down or your hips lift up, you are done and you may stand up. If anybody can make it to hold 3 minutes, super impressed.
I have a temporary walker. I'm probably not going to do these.
So this is going to be a great opportunity for you to kind of take a moment and think, because you're going to need this later, about how, if someone else was in your situation, you would adapt it as necessary. So here we go.
all day.
it. 30 more seconds. Okay, so I saw a lot of you guys putting that in the chat, but let's go ahead and put it in our poll so everybody can see. So go ahead and answer. How long did you hold it? 0 to 60 seconds, A, 61 to 120, B, 120 to 180 seconds, C. You can go ahead and put that in the Nearpod. Thanks, Jesse and Audrey. Thanks, Rob. Give everybody 15 more seconds to respond.
How do we put it in the Nearpod? What do we do?
If you tab back over to your Nearpod screen, you'll see the question on your screen.
Oh, our screen, not your screen.
Yeah, so this is on your screen. I'm controlling your screen.
Okay.
Just pick your answer and hit enter.
I can't find how to do that either.
No worries. You can just put it in the chat.
I did it all 3 minutes, but I don't know how to.
That's awesome.
Here. I'm bad with technology.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Well, I can't get that screen.
Yeah, I did all 3 as well, and I can't get it.
Yeah.
I just put it in the chat.
So if you go back to the Nearpod tab that's at the top of your screen, if you click on the one that says Nearpod, this question screen will be up there for you.
Okay.
But if it's not, don't worry about it.
I had to click on my Safari link because it was hiding behind.
Yeah, depending on how you have your tabs open, it might actually be in a whole separate window. So let me share the results. So as you can see, we're almost pretty evenly split, even based on the information that we're getting in the chat. So this is important to remember that this is a skill that even we as physical educators, some of us, first time I did, I was super proud of my 60 seconds. And so there's the ability for any student to find something that's positive in this activity and to improve and to have incremental improvement that they can see and actually see the strength. Sorry, somebody's writing on the screen. Actually see the strength and the skill that is necessary in that one. So let's hit our first mile marker. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. I'm not sure who is writing on the screen, but I will reshare so that goes away. There we go. So our first mile marker, our first task is we want to describe the challenges inherent in assessing students receiving adapted physical education. And we want to describe those challenges that we see in general and ones that we witness and feel on our own. So let's talk about what adaptive physical education is. So obviously you guys are in day 2 of the Content Teaching Academy, and this has been discussed before, but let's just look at a technical definition. So the National Consortium for Physical Education for Individuals with Disabilities defines adaptive physical education as physical education which has been adapted or modified so that it is as appropriate for the person with a disability as it is for a person without a disability. And I think that last part is the most important part. We are not saying that we are taking or removing something from an activity to make it adaptive physical education. We're changing the activity so that it serves the same purpose for the person with the disability as it does for the person without a disability. IDEA uses categories to determine who qualifies for services such as adaptive physical education. And so these are a list of some of the categories. Some are pretty straightforward. Autism, well, that one's maybe not so straightforward because there are lots of levels, but deafness, hearing impairment, intellectual disability, other health impairment, and so on. The thing about physical education is that IDEA is defining these for any services that the student receives in school. But in physical education, we are seeing every student, regardless of their ability or disabilities or anything else. And so we need to be able to, with all of these categories, adapt our education, our standards, and our objectives so that those students that are receiving those adaptive physical education services are getting thank you, Jessica, are getting services that are as appropriate for them as with a disability as they are for the student without the disability. When we combine that with assessment, so what is assessment? Oh, well, it's a test. Maybe, but not exactly. It serves a lot of purposes. Shape America defines assessment as the gathering of evidence about student achievement and making inferences about student progress based on that evidence. So we need to go beyond the just, okay, well, I have the information. We need to use that information to actually make inferences, to make suggestions for future progress or future enrichment based on that evidence that we receive from the assessment. We don't want to stop at the just fact gathering, we got it, you can do 30 seconds of plank. What does that tell us for your physical abilities, your knowledge of the skill, your ability to adapt it for you, and your ability to make improvements? Assessment is one of the 4 essential components of physical education according to Shape America, the others being policy and environment, curriculum, and appropriate instruction. So for the student, assessment is a grade in a lot of times, but that grade is related to identified learning objectives. Learning objectives that the student can identify. So we're not putting up, just slapping up there the state level objective. These need to be objectives that the students are aware of, can articulate, and therefore they understand why their grade is related to that. It also gives them a personal understanding of their progress. This assessment lets them know, where am I at, where do I want to be, and how do I get there? For educators, an assessment is an alignment with the state and or national standards. Okay? It establishes grade level outcomes. And it also is accountability for standards-based learning so that those that are in the power that be, AKA Vanessa Wiggin, know that we are teaching, what we are supposed to be teaching based on those assessments. So as we saw from the definition of adaptive physical education in the IDEA categories, and then the different parts of assessment, we need to understand that assessment cannot be the same either. Just like our teaching of students with adaptive physical education is not the same for every single student because there were dozens of dozen different categories there, our assessment of those same students needs to also be varied. We cannot just give one test and assume that it's going to give us the same information for each student. Now, does that say, okay, well, that means all standardized tests are out the window? No, not exactly. Remember, assessment is not just about the fact gathering, but how we make inferences from that data. So I could give a student the same questions, maybe in a different format, or the same physical test in a different format, and use that information to make inferences about their learning based on their abilities using the same tools. So what does the structure of APE and assessment look like at your school? One of the things that I learned when I attended the Content Teaching Academy, wow, I guess it's been almost 4 years now. It never occurred to me at the time that adaptive physical education did not look the same in every division. I assumed that every division was like mine, where we had an adaptive physical education teacher who would rotate through, but in the most cases, the building level physical education teacher was responsible for adapted services and adapting the day-to-day teaching. That is not always the case. I also assumed that all adaptive physical education students were included in regular education classes because that is how it is for the most part in our division. So I want to know what it looks like for your school. So we have a question here, and I'll read it out for those who haven't figured out how to get back to the Nearpod. But I would love for you guys to answer this on the Nearpod if you can figure out how to tab back to that. So what does the structure of adaptive physical education class and assessment look like in your division? Do you have a division central adaptive physical education teacher who goes from school to school, but the students are still tested by the classroom physical education teacher? Do you have adaptive physical education students who attend their own separate class, where an adaptive physical education teacher is solely responsible for their instruction and their assessment? Do you have a combination of the two, or do you have something that looks completely different? So I'll give everybody a minute to just pick their answer. Okay, while I still have some people answering, I'd love to ask those people who said they had something completely different. Jennifer Woodard, would you be willing to share what yours looks like, what adaptive physical education class and assessment looks like in your school or at your division?
And perhaps I didn't understand all of the poll options correctly. I work for Fairfax County Public Schools, and we have itinerants that travel from school to school and provide support for the special education self-contained students at the elementary level.
Okay.
But we also have students in general education classes as well, that per the IEP, they receive services at the middle school level. Our general education and high school level, our general education PE teachers have those classes. However, some of our itinerants teach those classes and instruct as well. It depends on the administrator in the building and what they decide they would like to have happen.
Okay, so that's very interesting that the building level administrator gets to make that decision. And I do think that that is different than a lot of areas, because often that's a centralized office or a central person's decision, especially in a division as large as yours. You would expect that to be a central decision. So that is, thank you for sharing that. Let's see, I had Mac Crossan. Mac, would you unmute and let us know how yours looks a little bit different?
Well, I put down C, and then we don't have a adaptive PE teacher, so cut that part out. And I do in adaptive PE and general. My students are in. I have an adaptive one day, and then they're in the regular classroom another day. But I do all the grading.
Okay. Okay. So you are becoming that dual person right there, where you're teaching the general education class and the adapted education class. Okay, fantastic. So we have quite the plethora. So if you see here on the screen, this is another example of how, just like our adapted physical education students come with different abilities. They come with different things that we need to take into consideration as far as their education and their physical limits, or their unlimited potential. How each division in school is teaching is also different as well. So we want to make sure that we have tools readily available for us so that we can quickly change and move on the fly. I will not say pivot, so that we can quickly change and move as necessary to make sure that we are gathering the data that we need from them, as well as being able to make inferences with that data. So we're going to brainstorm. In just a minute, we're going to have a collaboration screen. And I want you to write what your personal challenges are with assessing your adapted PE students, whether you're responsible for assessing them on your own or someone else comes in to do their assessments. And this is speaking specifically about assessing them. So not just a general day-to-day class, but when you're trying to gather that data. You can like any that you relate to on this screen. Again, if you are able to do it on the Nearpod, that's great because I'll be able to print this and share it with everyone. But if not, you can certainly put it in the chat as well. So we're going to do 2 minutes. There we go. And to add a thought, you just type in the box and hit post and it'll show up. So what issues do you come up against regularly when attempting to assess your APE students so that it is as appropriate for the person with a disability as it is for a person without a disability? Oh yeah, time. Absolutely, Kelly. That they enjoy. Okay, I like that you added that. I like, Amy, that you considered not just a matter of what can I do, but something that they can actually enjoy doing. Okay. Okay, so if they don't even have it in there, okay. Oh, yeah. A days and B days get tricky in the secondaries. 45 more seconds. Yeah, Rob, I feel you on that one. We try to message you guys. Sometimes we don't know. Okay, chunking it, being able to break it down. Things that they can physically do. Oh, absolutely. That virtual nature of it, Courtney, was supremely difficult for the adaptive physical education students. I mean, you can't necessarily rely on their parents to give them the support physically that they might need to do those. Okay, combining with PT testing, that's a great point as well, Kelly. Okay, Laura, that's true. I mean, they could take charge in 2 ways, like they're taking over your class, or maybe that they're doing too much for the students, so you can't get proper data. Okay, so those are all, you know, you can see a lot of repeats here. We have a lot of time, a lot of people just saying having the time to assess our our adaptive physical education students, and this could apply to just assessing all of our students. And so finding ways that we can assess quickly or that the students can be a little bit more responsible for their assessment is very important. Making sure that they understand what it is that they are testing, why they're testing it, and how to do it. Those came up several times. And not being aware of what exactly is being tested and helping them know why they need the assessment. Absolutely. Okay, fantastic. Thank you for sharing. Okay, we're going to do another commercial break to get us up and get moving. We are 3 into our functional fitness challenges. Let's look at the lovely Amy Riggio.
Welcome to the Functional Fitness Challenge for Flexibility. This is the Shoulder Stretch Challenge. Stand with both arms to your side, right palm facing forward, and left palm facing back. With your right hand, reach up over your right shoulder and down your back as if reaching for your shoulder blades. Reach up with the left hand and touch fingertips together. If your fingers touch, record your score as a Y for yes. If not, record an N for no. Test the left side in the same manner and record that score as a yes or a no.
I'm laughing that some of you guys put no before we even started. like, no, not happening. For most of us, it looks like we could do one side or the other. You can put your right as the first number and your left as the second number in the chat. This one is not in the Nearpod as to whether or not you could do the shoulder stretch. So I don't know, Sheila, are you even allowed to do that one yet? No. So we can do one or the other. So it's good too to show the kids that, hey, I'm a super fit and flexible person, and this is something that I need to improve. So that's really as close as I've gotten this year. And it's important for them to see. And I love that Amy, even though she could totally touch her fingers in that video, doesn't do it to give them that kind of boost. So I want you to tab to the main room for just a second. So you're going to go back. I'm going to stop sharing. So what we've just done is just taken the opportunity to kind of discuss some of the challenges and see some of the ways that adaptive physical education can be challenging to assess for a variety of situations. There are a variety of teaching environments and a variety of student abilities that we need to consider. And sometimes we just need to kind of get that all out there and also realize that we are not the only ones in the boat that need the time or the space or need help kind of verbalizing that. In the next section of the mile marker, we'll talk about some of the tools that are available to you to meet some of these challenges. I want to give us a 3-minute break. And then when we come back, I'll answer. I see that there are a couple questions in the chat. So if you want to take 3 minutes, we'll return at 11:12. You can get up and jump around and do some jumping jacks. I'm going to make sure our breakout rooms are set. If you have not yet put an E or an S, at least by your name, if you could please do that, because that helps me as I'm making sure that you are assigned to a breakout room that is appropriate for the level that you teach. Now we want to identify the resources and tools that are available for free, okay? Important marker there, for free to educators. I don't want to leave out the fact that there are some resources and tools that are available at a cost, particularly, I got to put a plug for my friend Ron Malm in Focus Fitness, but I'm talking specifically about the ones that are available for free. And we can, talk offline about ones that might cost a little bit as far as a school or division. So our first tool are the physical education SOLs. And you might be saying, Lay, those are not a tool. But they are absolutely our first tool. The Virginia Standards of Learning, they act as our mastery goals and our tools that we can use to break down exactly what it is that we are trying to teach to the students so that we can pull out that essential knowledge that they need to know in order to determine how to adapt for our physical education students and how to assess them. So TTAC at ODU has breaking down the standards, has unpacking the standards as an approach to addressing the critical elements of systemically designing of instruction. And it's seen as unpacking the standards that will be taught. Okay, so that's kind of their definition of it, addressing the critical elements and designing those objectives. So remember, we want the students to be able to identify what it is that they're learning. And in order to do that, we need to figure out from those objectives what exactly it is that we're trying to get them to know or do or describe or show. So we are going to unpack the standards, and there are 3 parts to that TTAC details. First, we need to determine what we want the students to know. What are the facts, vocabulary, or the rules that the students need to be successful in this particular unit or this particular objective? We want to describe what we want them to understand. What are the concepts, the big ideas, and the connections that they need to make in this unit? And then what do we want them to do? What should the students be able to do, and how will they do it? Are they performing? Are they describing? Are they writing? Do they have the ability to do that in multiple ways? So here's just a quick example. So this is from 7.1e. The standard is to describe and demonstrate how movement is stabilized to include balance, center of gravity, and center of support, and planes of movement. So if I do a quick unpacking of this standard before I write my objective for the students and before I decide how I'm going to adapt the movement, I know that I want the students to, they need to know what stabilization means. They need to know center of gravity. They need to know center of support, and they need to know planes of movement. What do they need to understand? They need to understand the relationship between center of gravity and the center of support in a variety of balances and movements. And what do I want them to do? I want them to be able to write or verbalize the relationship, because that's not exactly spelled out in the standard. So I can give them that option. Do they want to write it down, or do they want to say it to me? And they need to be able to demonstrate a variety of balances and different planes of movement. I don't need to pin it down to one or two. I can give them the choice there. So you are going to go into a group in just a moment, and you're going to unpack the standards. And I'm going to put the form in the chat. And when you're in your group, I'd like you to have, just choose one person really quickly. Actually, let me do it. Let's do alphabetical by first name. Whoever's, so Ashley, you're it in your group. That person is going to be the one typing in the actual Google form. So I don't want to get 99 Google Forms back. I'm just going to get one from each of the 9 groups. And you're going to be looking at the standards of learning, particularly when they are around fitness planning. So these are the 2 links that I'm going to give you. We're going to start with 3rd grade. Not that we don't have adapted physical education students in for kindergarten through 1st grade, but these particular functional fitness assessments and what we're looking for in them are more 3rd grade standards. So you're going to be looking at the standards of learning in fitness planning. Okay, so for 3rd grade, it's going to be here, and you're going to choose, and you're going to unpack this standard. So for 3rd grade, you're going to unpack this one, okay? And you're going to type it into that Google form. And so we'll be able to share this and have this as a group. So that when we're looking at this and we're going back to our anything with fitness planning, not even just, this sort of testing, we can say, okay, what am I looking for these particular students? So the first link I'm going to give you is to the physical education standards.
It looks like you're sharing, it might be just Virginia Beach. You'll need to adjust that.
Oh no, these are the state ones.
Someone says they need permission on the Google form.
The Nearpod says it needs permission.
I'm gonna put it in the chat. Yeah, it's just in the Nearpod, so I remember to put it in chat. Yes, thank you. Okay, so these are the standards, which by the way are named are named history, which is very interesting. And then we're gonna do, okay. And I'm gonna then send you this. So please, when you get in your group, just decide who has the A name in your group or the B name, and that person will be the one to fill out the form. So here is your form. There's a drop down where you'll pick the grade. You'll know what grade you're doing because it's the name of your breakout room. We'll be in the breakout rooms for 6 minutes for this. Okay, so I'll give you a 30-second warning, even if you don't get the last part of the unpacking done. Please, at that 30-second warning, make sure you submit so we have that. And we're going to do 6 minutes. And we're going to give 30 seconds. There you go. Make sure everybody gets in there. Okay, so you guys were all here after I unpacked the stand. Okay, I think everybody's coming back, waiting on 7 more people. Unless somebody got bumped out after. Okay, so your initial response might be like, Lay, that was not enough time. Oh, look, somebody already put it. That was not enough time. Okay, so first, that was just an introduction to unpacking the standards, which is something that once done, we get a little bit faster at it. So you may have noticed like, okay, well, some people just kind of rolled out the ideas in our group. It's probably because something that they've done regularly. 2, the great thing is that the other groups have done all the other standards for you. And so what we can do now is we can share this, and this will be one of the documents that I give to Jillian to share. And so that you have this readily available in a form, you know, you can edit as necessary, but in a form so that you can just pull down. You don't need to go look for the standard because it's already going to be there. And then you can know exactly what you want the students to know, understand, and do so that you can pull out what you need to for your adapted students to drill down to exactly what you need. So this is a free resource, this unpacking the standard. Those standards are there to help guide your teaching and your assessment. And so we want to make sure that we use them to their full ability. Yes, Amy, I will absolutely put that link in again. Not that. Get my Nearpod and I'll reshare it and we'll get to our next commercial break. Copy. And this is for Amy or anybody else who needs to get back into the Nearpod. There it is. Okay, so that's our first free resource. The standards. Who knew they were there this whole time, ready for you to use?
Yeah, because they're under history, so how would we have known?
All right, so now we're going to do our next commercial break, our next fitness challenge.
Welcome to the Functional Fitness Challenge for Flexibility. This is the Lower Body Challenge.
Begin seated on the floor without shoes. The bottom of your right foot touches a wall or on the riser of a step. Bend your left leg so that your foot is touching the floor next to the opposite knee area. The starting position for your hands is both arms extended with hands touching in a V pattern. Slowly lean forward and reach as far as you can while keeping your leg on the ground. If your furthest distance is your shin, record your score as a 1. If your furthest distance is your ankle, record your score as a 2. If your furthest distance is your toes, record your score as a 3. Take measurement on both the right and left leg, similar to the sit and reach test.
Okay, so let's take 30 seconds and do our lower body flexibility challenge. You can share with us in the chat what your score is if you like. You do not have to, but I want to give everybody the opportunity to share it. One thing that comes up a lot for this one is that, you know, hey, what if we don't have a wall or a step? How are my students doing this one? Maybe you just have a line, or maybe use the end of a mat, something to keep their leg in place so that they have an end point. The knee up is always a big thing. Oh, we're very flexible in the lower body, guys. Excellent, excellent. Yeah, I like that against a classmate. It's great. So obviously we are all great at lower body flexibility. We all need to work on shoulder. All right, so if you tab over to the main screen so that you can see all of our lovely faces, I want to take a minute to talk about what the functional fitness challenges are and what they are not, okay, before we kind of get into a breakdown of them in general. The functional fitness challenges, as you'll hear in Sheila's own words, because I'm going to play a video from her, were an opportunity that was created in response to the pandemic. But they were also a great chance for us to reimagine what we called fitness testing. Okay, so what they are not. As of yet, they are not standardized. There's not yet a baseline. And the reason why there's not yet a baseline is because no one had done them yet. And so part of this first year of data and this collection that we're putting in is creating that baseline so that we do have standards that we can help our students to find out where they could be, not necessarily where they should be, because as the functional fitness challenges, as we describe them a little bit more, you see that it's very personal. It really gives the student the opportunity to see their own growth, not necessarily in relation to every other person. It's not about, can I run a mile faster than Sharon, but can I run a mile faster than I did last time? It's not whether I can hold a plank longer than Rob McGee, but could I hold a plank 30 seconds longer at the end of the year than I did at the beginning? And so we want to keep that in mind when we're talking about the functional fitness challenges, especially as they apply to our adaptive physical education students, because it really gives us the opportunity to let them see their own personal growth and not be kind of beat down by the fact that, well, there's always that kid that's faster or stronger or better. No, I am faster or stronger or better than I was before I did these challenges. Then I planned and worked at it, did them again, and now I'm better at that. So that was my little speech. Let's get back to our data on the functional fitness challenges. So what are they? The functional fitness challenges are 5 challenges that address 4 of the 5 components of fitness. We've done 4 of them so far. We'll do the last one in just a moment. In the past year, so since July of last year, these have been used in 13 states, from Virginia to California and everything in between. They were used by 78 school divisions, okay? And this included 372,140 students, and that was data as of Monday. Okay, so I updated that as of Monday. This is data provided to me by Ron at Focus Fitness. So what that means is that there were probably more students who used the functional fitness challenge. They just weren't the ones who entered the data into the Focus Fitness platform, because again, that's a paid platform. Not everybody has that, but the functional fitness challenges themselves are free. The videos, as you see, are on YouTube. So we're gonna watch Sheila, because she describes it best. There's no point in me saying it again, of what the challenges were, why they were described, why they were created. Let me get it queued up to the right spot. There we go. What prompted you and your collaborators to develop the functional fitness challenge?
Well, I was looking through, for a little historical context, my email chain. And back in May, as we were all meeting, collaborating as coordinators and with the State Department, I thought I need something for summer school, because we have a very robust summer program here. And I didn't think we were going to cut any of those virtual classes. And while I knew I was okay for the spring, not so much for the summer and fall. And it never hurts to ask. So that's something I've learned in life. And so I called up DOE, our friends Vanessa Wiggin and Liz Payne, and said, hey, would you be okay with us doing a pilot in Virginia Beach and doing some testing, was how we were calling it at first, at home. And they said, well, what do you have in mind? So then we had a conference call with Ron Malm at Focus Fitness, and we started brainstorming. We were calling it the Whole Child Challenge in the very beginning, and it evolved to functional fitness challenges. So we needed something where we could measure components of fitness and something kids could easily do each challenge in 3 minutes or less. So that's kind of how it started. It was truly very innocent, and it did okay, so we went forward.
Okay, and then just a little bit more detail on how these have been used and the response that they are getting.
You know, COVID has been tough in many respects, but it has brought light to some things that we do really well. And it's also brought light to things that we could improve upon. And I've always felt like when we do fitness testing, the way we present it can make or break. And so a lot of times it was rolled out to kids as something to check a box and we have to do it. And I even had a colleague refer to one of the tests as the torture test. And I thought, wow, she was an athlete in college and she's still calling it that. And so that really resonated. So what the feedback told us, because I'm a big send out a survey person, the kids were telling the teachers, nobody said, oh, I miss doing a certain test anymore. You know, I don't miss the cadence or any of those things. I enjoy this test because I don't have the pressure. So it's a challenge, not a test. It's how we termed it. And one of the high school teachers said they actually had students report they would not come to school in those days or would get so stressed out and have so much anxiety that they just dreaded fitness testing days. And now they felt like it was something relevant that they could do themselves and they could create goals around the new challenges. And so that's really what fitness testing was always intended to be, not a get your name up on the wall of fame, but using the challenges to help yourself make a fitness plan. That's what it's all about. So from that aspect, it's been a win. I mean, I couldn't have asked for anything better.
See, I told you, she says exactly what we need to hear. But I want us to realize that these are some things that these functional fitness challenges, this free resource that was created for our students initially just in a certain area and has really spread to the country. This just leads itself right into our adaptive physical education students. This student voice and choice, the personal nature of these challenges is right up our alley. It's exactly what we as adaptive physical education teachers or teachers who are teaching APE students have been doing. And now we have these challenges that can serve that purpose, but that the other students are doing as well. And so instead of having to give different tests or different assessments or do those multiple days, like we were discussing was a challenge, we can give everybody these same challenges and they're doing their own personal nature of it. So I want you to use that. We're going to do one more collaboration board before we do our last challenge. I want you to use that link. I'll put it in here again to the health and PE standards. And I want you to take 2 minutes. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. To think of what other, so we're talking a lot about fitness planning and that's the one that we're really breaking down, but I want you to think about what other standards the functional fitness challenges address, because they really can serve the purpose for a lot. And so you can just give us the number and letter identifier and like a very brief description of it and share it with us on the collaboration board. And we'll just take 2 minutes to do this so that we have this information for us and we can do double duty with our fitness challenges. And I know I was in a couple of groups and some other people had already mentioned some, but just to kind of give you some clues, you know, when we're talking about doing a variety of activities safely at home, doing a variety of activities for each component of fitness, identifying the anatomical basis of movement, identifying the muscles. Yeah, I love how everybody's just putting the whole anatomical basis of movement. It really can cover like the whole strand. Thanks, Kelly, for that number. Oh, thanks, Gabe. Thanks for being really specific with that, with the number and what challenges it applies to. Definitely with the balance. All about the SMART goals. I mean, this is our SMART goal tool. 30 more seconds. And I like that Kelly is sharing the kindergarten standards as well, because even though we're talking about 3rd through 5th grade in the essence of, you know, especially because of with the heart rate, like what we'll do next is a 3rd grade standard, those K1 and 2 years are the years where we're building the capacity for this. So we're building the understanding of what these challenges are and understanding our students and what modifications they'll need for years to come. And so it's important that we're able to connect them to those kindergarten, first and second grade standards as well. So thank you for sharing. I'll be able to print those and share them with you. So the last resource that we're going to talk about, so first we talked about the standards of learning, we talked about the functional fitness challenges as a free resource for us to assess our adaptive physical education students. The last one we're going to talk about is Flipgrid. Why are we going to talk about Flipgrid? Well, because it's free. Flipgrid is a free platform that's supported by Microsoft. They're constantly updating it. They love to get feedback. They've added so many things to it in just the last year, from teachers saying, hey, I need this or this or this or this, and they're rolling it out. But it's also highly adaptive. Highly adaptive in that there are many tools to allow students to customize their experience. So you can set this up for your entire class, regardless of their abilities, and they can choose the tools or the settings that they need in order to complete the task that you've set forth. So again, you've drilled down that standard, you know what you want them to show, you're using your functional fitness challenges, and then you can give the students the autonomy of saying, well, I need this video, or I need this playback, or I need this extra time to do it, or I need it chunked into these sections, so I'm going to click here and here and here. And all of those are available using Flipgrid. We're going to explore Flipgrid. So the other great thing about Flipgrid is that it's very secure. So I can't just give you a link and let you watch my kids in Flipgrid, but I can give you a guest password to temporarily let you watch some of my students. So I'm going to put a link in there, and then you're going to use this password, which I'll also copy and paste, to just kind of look around Flipgrid if you've never seen it before. The one that I'm going to share with you is from Field Day. They're pretty funny. My kids are pretty funny, and we're Field Day, so feel free to laugh along with them. These are my virtual students for Field Day. And so this is the link to the Flipgrid, and then your password is JMUCTA, and it's it's O as in the letter, not the number. So let's just take 2 minutes to kind of explore that Flipgrid, watch a couple videos, especially if you've never seen a Flipgrid before. I will show it on here, but this way, if you want to listen to a video, you can. We don't all have to listen to the same ones. You can click on some of the things, test out some of the tools, maybe try that immersive reader. So I shared this particular Flipgrid because in this Flipgrid, so the students had 40 different tasks that they were able to choose from. And so there are 35 responses for this particular task. And in this Flipgrid, there are 3 students that receive adapted physical education specifically. There are 12 students who have an IEP for intellectual or learning disability. And this runs the range of kindergarten through 5th grade in this Flipgrid. And you wouldn't know it from what they were able to do. They were all able to accomplish the task in this particular event, which I had not taught them. You know, I hadn't taught them how to do this particular Field Day event because it was a Field Day event, but they were able to use the tools that were there to figure it out. I know, right? He's so funny. He is really funny, Courtney. But it's like a slice of my school. And I just noticed it as I was looking, and I'm like, here are these students from a variety of backgrounds, a variety of abilities. I mean, and we're even looking at a variety of tools that are available. Some were able to pick up the tools that I had, some had to make do with what they had at home. And yet they were able to all accomplish this, proud of themselves, post their videos, get some views, and share it with the group. You're going to get an opportunity in just a second to create your own Flipgrid. Before we do that, I want you to tell us, what could you see? What, in just that brief view of it, did you notice about Flipgrid that would specifically apply to your AEP classes? What were the tools or the things that you saw that just kind of gave you, hey, I could use this in AEP. This would be great for my AEP students, APE students, excuse me. It is very kid friendly. I mean, they have the colors. It's not too overwhelming with it, but you can add more or less if you need to. Absolutely, with that instant feedback. Yes, Sarah. So they can post one Flipgrid. I can leave it open for a certain period of time. They can post one at the beginning of the month, and then I can say, okay, go back to the Flipgrid, and they can post it again. And then they immediately get that feedback of, this is how far I've gone. They don't need to remember it. They don't need to go back and look for any data. It's there for them to see. Yes. Yeah, the students who are a little bit apprehensive about doing any sort of movement in front of a group, here, here's the tablet. Let's do the same movement, no matter where you are. And Chrissy, you're right. They absolutely take multiple attempts. If they don't like their first video, they can delete it. If they like it and want to add later, they can add to it. And they're always all smiling, Andrew. You're right. It doesn't matter who the student is. They get that selfie mode and they grin at themselves. So there's that joy and whole, like, here I am. I'm the star of my own show. And that's one of those ideas of, we're making it the same for the student with disability as it would be for the student without a disability. This is the same experience that these students are able to get, and they're able to take from it what they need. So during our identified mode, we unpack the standards to help us drill down to the essentials. We talked about the functional fitness challenges being used in a variety of situations and how Flipgrid can give students more time, voice, and choice. When you combine those, you create an assessment environment that can be customized for the student and the teacher. And it can be customized in such a way that the teacher is not making individual assessments or individual processes for every student, regardless of their ability. Okay, so we're going to do our last one. So you can do this one along with, before we start, let's take our resting heart rate. So 2 fingers, bottom of your neck. I'll count for 6 seconds. Ready, go. Stop. We would add a 0 to that, is what I would tell my students, and that would be our resting heart rate. So if you type something like 300 in there, I know you need a little bit more practice taking your heart rate. And if you type a 6, I know that you didn't hear the add a 0 part, and you maybe don't get that math concept yet, and we can work on that. So you can do the steps along with, we're not going to do the demonstration video for this because it'd be a whole another 3 minutes. But I do want to point out one thing with the step challenge that came up a lot for us with the functional fitness challenges. People said, well, what if the kids don't have a step? Your modifications are to march in place, lifting your knees up high. So if you don't have a step, that's what you're doing.
Welcome to the Functional Fitness Challenge for Cardiorespiratory Endurance. This is the step challenge.
For this challenge, you will need a step that is 8 to 10 inches high, a metronome with a 120 beat per minute cadence, and a watch or cell phone for timing. This challenge consists of 4 steps. Step 1.
Which we already
Measure
did.
your resting heart rate. Place your fingers on your neck or wrist, wherever you can most clearly detect your heartbeat. Set a timer for 6 seconds and count each heartbeat. At the completion of the 6 seconds, add a 0 after the number of heartbeats that you counted. This is your resting heart rate. Step 2. Step up. Start your cadence.
All right, let's go.
Start a 3-minute timer. Step up, up, down, down, staying on the beat until the 3 minutes is complete. Step 3.
Okay, so we pretend like we did that for 3 minutes.
Place your fingers on your neck or wrist wherever you can most clearly detect your heartbeat. Set a timer for 6 seconds and count each heartbeat. At the completion of the 6 seconds, add a 0 after the number of heartbeats that you counted. This is your exercise heart rate. Step 4. Recover. Sit on your step for 1 minute. At the completion of this minute, measure your recovery heart rate. Place your fingers on your neck or wrist wherever you can most clearly detect your heartbeat. Set a timer for 6 seconds and count each heartbeat. At the completion of the 6 seconds, add a 0 after the number of heartbeats that you counted. This is your recovery heart rate. To determine your recovery rate, use the formula exercise heart rate minus recovery heart rate equals recovery rate.
So that formula right there, that recovery rate, that's our prime data source. That's one of the things that we're looking to have a standard for, so that students can get an idea of how fast is a healthy level for my heart to recover. But obviously we needed the data to begin with to see what an average number of students was able to do. Okay, so we're going to come to the create portion as we wrap up here. So we have examples and templates for assessment in a variety of class situations. So we've actually already made one. We've broken down the standards into a template that we can share with everyone. I'm going to put you back into your breakout rooms. And when you're in your breakout rooms this time with your grade level, you're going to consider that breakdown, that unpacking of the standard, and you're going to come up with the modifications that you would need for your students with disabilities. And so what I'm adding to yours is what I'm adding to the name of each breakout room, in addition to your grade level, is I'm adding a disability or a different ability. And when you're in there, I'm going to send you another form. Same person can record. And I want you to just go through each of the functional fitness challenges and write down the modifications that you would need to make in order for the student to reach that essential learning that you determined in that standard that you unpacked. So we have level 2 of 3. So we're going to have some people that have duplicates in the different grade levels. And almost there. Got to get these 11th grade plus people.
Hey, I posted a quick question in the chat. Can students see what other students post in Flipgrid?
Only if you allow it. And I'll show you that as soon as we come back. I'll show you what the settings are.
I wasn't sure. Thank you.
Yes. You have the ability to allow people to see, to comment. You as the teacher have control over that.
And Leigh, it's 11:54, just so you know.
Oh my gosh. Okay. We're having so much fun with Step Challenge. Thank you. Almost there. And last one. Okay. That's fine. I just want to make sure it didn't bump you out.
No, it's okay.
And I apologize, I had to come in and put the form in each person's chat. I put it in the chat before I opened the breakout rooms, but forgot to hit enter. So it didn't, not everybody got it before they went into the breakout room. So if you're person that was recording wants to just take a minute and just in general put down the modifications that you came up with. If you came up with a few for some and none for the others, that's great. That's still helpful for us as a group to have that in one place in one document so that I can combine it with the unpacking of the standards that you have. I know that Jillian just put in the survey, but I'll put in the link to the form too, just in case. For that, and then I need to wrap up here. So I thought I underplanned time so that I would have extra time for us to explore creating a Flipgrid a little bit more, but you know, that's totally happens, but that's okay. So what I would like to do is that I will wrap up here with you guys. And then if it's okay with Jillian and the CTA people, I will stay on after if anybody has any particular questions about setting up a Flipgrid. If they're completely new to Flipgrid, I can stay on after and do that. But today we were able to describe the challenges that teachers are facing assessing students in adaptive PE, identify resources that are readily available for you to use for assessment, and create some examples and resources that you can duplicate or modify for a variety of students and use for your adaptive physical education students in a variety of platforms and settings to find that, to use those assessments. And then you also worked with some awesome people because you guys are all fantastic. And I want to say thanks. I have to give the credits to SlidesGo because that's how I get free slides. And thanks. If you have any questions, this is my email, or you can find me on Twitter. And that. And then if that is okay with the CTA people and Jillian, I can stay on for a few minutes if anybody has any particular questions about Flipgrid that we need to see. Otherwise, thank you so much for taking the time, for moving with us today, for sharing your expertise and your ideas. And I hope you enjoy the last 2 days of your CTA session.
Thank you so much, Leigh. That was a very good presentation. We appreciate it. So yes, if Katie needs to turn over the host to one of us, if she's got to scoot out from JMU, feel free to do that, Katie, and we can stay on for a few minutes with the teachers that would like to. So thanks, everyone. Be sure you fill out your survey, and we'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:30.
I'm posting the survey in one more time in the chat box in case anybody missed it. Please fill it out for us. Thank you, Leigh. That was awesome.
Is there 2 different surveys for Dr.